Previously, Kazuki and Susan were summoned to another world as heroes, but incidentally, Usato got teleported with them just because he was standing closer to them, so he was an accident. But luckily, he got the rarest type of healing magic, but unluckily, the best healer in the kingdom is a tyrant, and she puts Usato through a hell of a time to train him for a rescue team in war. Rose even threw him off in the jungle to hunt down blue grizzly bears. However, he saw a blue grizzly cub survived from a snake monster, so he befriends that blue grizzly cub. So Usato started to take care of the cub and named it Blurin, and Rose got ahead and reported about Blurin to the king and got permission to keep it as the property of the rescue team. So as a member of the team, Rose wanted Blurin to be useful, and the best way for him to be useful is to become a weight load for Usato in his training. Rose did this to mimic the situation on the battlefield where Usato has to carry wounded soldiers. And she ordered other boys to become obstacles in his path where he could get attacked by enemy while he's trying to save many injured. So Usato did a great job and ran for 4 hours until he gave up from stress, and there Rose gets there and told Usato that he got tired because he was nervous. Nervous is fear, an impatient type of feeling is always the reason for exhaustion, so she healed him up and told him to run around the city after his mana recovers. So he carries Blurin through the town and everyone kept staring at Usato because he was carrying a bear cub on his back, but the people realized that Usato was from the rescue team. So they chilled out in the end. Their Blurin woke up from his nap and smelled some local fruits, but Usato asked the granny that no one was scared even though he was carrying Blurin. So Granny told him that they all realized that he's from the rescue team, and before him, many scary-looking men also kept running around the town, so no one is fazed by anything that rescue team does. So, after hearing that, Usato continues to run around, and decided to visit Kazuki and Susan in the castle. But a blonde guy saw him and ran after him, but Usato was so busy running that he noticed him a while later. His name is Orga, and he's in the same rescue team. His sister Yoruru is the same. And both siblings have healing powers, but they weren't able to keep up with Rose's harsh training, so they started their own shop in town where they help out others with their powers. But getting to know him better, Usato then once again got ready to run around with Blurin and runs out of there. He then gets to the castle and the guard lets him in. So Usato asked if it's okay to bring Blurin with him, and the guard gave his permission, because Rose had already informed them that Usato would bring a monster cub with him. Rose got some reputation and Usato enters the castle. There he saw Susan was training in swordsmanship, but she left her training the moment she saw Usato. She was so taken in by Blurin and wanted to touch him, but Blurin clearly rejected her coldly, but she liked it somehow, so she goes for it again and Blurin bits her hand this time. So Usato made up that Blurin could sense that Susan got a tainted soul, so he shows her how to do it, but Blurin bits Usato as well and made fun of himself. But aside from that, Usato saw Susan's hands had bruises, so he healed her out, and Susan then signals Usato that he must have come here specially to meet someone like her. But Usato honestly tells her out that he's here to meet Kazuki as well and breaks her expectations. So Susan tells him that Kazuki is on a survival training in the forest with a group of knights, and after him it will be her turn. And just like that, they spend a few minutes chatting with each other, and then Usato leaves out of there and runs around with Blurin till nightfall. After that, he saw Rose out there gazing in the sky, so he told her that he wouldn't kill anyone and would use his powers to help his friends in war. Which Rose liked because that was the resolve she wanted to see in him. So the next day Rose woke him up because the king had ordered Usato to join Susan in her combat training. So Usato meets with Susan near the town's gate and she introduces him to Oroku, their knight and mage Korin. Oroku was the same gatekeeper from yesterday, so when he gets to talk with him, Rose called out Susan to tell her that Usato was a non-combatant and could mostly use healing to cure poison and heal injuries, so she should be careful not to die out there. But she had nothing to say to Usato and leaves. So aside from them, Kazuki was training out again and Princess Celia tells him to rest for a while because he came back from his training just yesterday. She was clearly crushing on him, but he's just like Usato and didn't notice. Speaking of Usato, he and his party were about to enter the forest where Blurin had lost his parents, so he felt bad for him. But their Susan again tried to pet Blurin, but Usato didn't let her have her way. So Blurin woke up from their squabble, but he was still sleepy, so Susan tried to give him a piggyback, but his weight was too much for her. But then Korin picked up the presence of something and Oroku warned them to be prepared. There the bandits showed up to steal everything from them. So Susan used her lighting magic to short-circuit one of them, and Usato cheered her up to use it once more. But then suddenly a group of fallboars charged right at them and Usato saves Susan from the hit and both rolls out of there in the high-flow river. But he remembered the area and knew the waterfall was ahead, so he asked Susan to take a deep breath and they falls down the fall. But nothing serious happened to them and Usato heals out her wound from her face, after which she saw they didn't have any food to spend and the weather was pretty unsure. So Usato wanted to use his old place up in the trees for shelter, but Susan had never climbed the tree and Usato thought she's like a daughter of a rich family who knows nothing about freedom. So he chose a cave to hide out from the rain. After that, Usato uses Susan's thunder magic to secure some food and to light the fire, so he puts out his clothes to dry out, and Susan took a peek at his nice six-pack abs and got impressed. But there she saw a group of cute poison monkeys, and Usato had learned about them from a book and warned Susan, but she still goes ahead to pet them and gets bitten by them. That poison worked out instantly and the news of them being separated got to the king. Kazuki also heard it and thought of going out right away to find both of them. But Rose stopped him and assured him that as long as Usato was with Susan, nothing would happen to them. She wasn't wrong because Usato was putting Susan to good use for camping, but she was sleepy. So she told Usato to take a nap before her. Then the rain started to pour, and Susan asked Usato if he wanted to go back home. Usato was unsure how to answer because he wants to go back but at the same time he wants to stay. As for Susan, she wants to stay here where she can live her life to the fullest because in their world she had to stay as an empty shell. Usato couldn't agree more because he also wished to have more from his life, and more so he was happy to got close to Susan because back home she was like an untouchable lady. And that sets up the mood, and Usato goes to sleep out of embarrassment, but Susan feels the same way. Then the next morning, both of them wandered around to find a way and felt a presence, but it was Blue-Rin who found them, but Blue-Rin remembers the place. And Usato tells them it's the same place where Blue-Rin lost his parents, but Blue-Rin comes to Usato to show him that he's putting his past behind him because his new place is right beside him. And the same goes for Susan, but that's where episode 4 and 5 comes to an end. But stay tuned to watch more of its episode on my channel. Till then, take care.